and welcome to Decision 2026, Qtv'S flagship election program following the Gambia's road to the December 2026 presidential election. I am Mamadou Mbodj. Last week, in our premiere episode, we stepped back to examine the broader political landscape and ask a fundamental question. What country will Gambians be voting in come December 2026? Tonight, we turn our attention to the institution at the very heart of the electoral process, the Independent Electoral Commission. So as preparations gather momentum, the questions are becoming more focused and more urgent. Is the IEC ready? What preparations are underway? What challenges remain? What milestones have been achieved and which ones remain? How secure and transparent is the process, and what should Gambians expect in the months ahead? My panel, I'm joined by Mr. Aliou Cisse of QTV. He's a reporter and he also hosts QTV's flagship political current affairs program, State of Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbodj. It's a pleasure to be back on the program, and we're looking forward to another exciting conversation.
Absolutely. And on Aliou's left, we have Mr. Ibrahim Dabo. He recently joined QTV. Welcome to the program. I'm a seasoned political and social observer of events.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being around today as well for the second edition. Although not as quite happy as before, because of the last World Cup game yesterday.
My commiserations there, sir. We should have been joined by a third panelist, Aisata Keita, President of Gambia Press Union, but she couldn't make it today. So, you know, things happen sometimes. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. And tonight's guest is sitting on my right here, Mr. Parmakan Khan, Director of Communications at the Independent Electoral Commission. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, QTV. I would say I'm always home. QTV is my home. Yeah. So I'm pleased to be here once again. And thank you for having me.
We're glad that you feel at home. We like to think that we are hospitable. Yeah. Okay. So we should have been joined by a political scientist, but in the end, he couldn't make it. It's all right. Thanks for coming, Mr. McCann. Now, over the next 90 minutes, we'll examine the Commission's preparedness, the integrity of the voters' register, election logistics, technology, transparency, voter education, security, and the challenges that lie between now and polling day. So, Mr. Khan, we will begin. The IEC carries one of the most important constitutional responsibilities in a democracy. So, still, polling day, it's months away, but election preparations begin, you know, long before the first ballot is cast. So, where exactly are we in the preparations for December 2026?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Mbodj, for this wonderful moment at QTV to discuss the IEC's preparedness with the Gambian public, with the electorate, with the voters. Just to say that the IEC have been in full gear, I would say since last year. Of course, this is why we say the electoral process is a process. Even though elections is one day in every 5 years, but you do a lot of planning. It takes months and years to plan and execute that one day. I would say the process starts with voter registration, and even if we go by the electoral calendar published by the Commission, some major activities, including the voter registration, major activities. Once this is done, then we have the subsequent elections that will follow, beginning with a presidential election in December 2026, and to be followed with National Assembly elections in 2027, and also local government elections. These are elections for mayors, for chairpersons, and for councillors. So I would say that would cap this electoral cycle. And as we know, the cycle, constitutes of various major activities, including voter registration, elections, and other key activities. But as of now, I would say the focus now is on the voter registration, which of course is another process, in its own right. Because starting with last year, we did the procurement. There were a lot of bidding from various companies, both national and international companies. And of course, one of them, won the bid. And this is the company that is now executing these services public. Then, as we may recall again, we also had the field activities. This was the capturing of data from the applicants field, which is done and dusted as of now. But then the subsequent activities, are ongoing, because once the voter data have been captured across the country, where every eligible Gambian who did not register in 2021 and then is due or is eligible to be registered, in order to vote in the subsequent elections, the person was had the rights to be registered during the supplementary registration. And again, it was important to note that people who would be 18 years of age by the 5th of December, they are registered, even though as at that time they were not 18. I think that should be clear. So not saying that people are registered and they are not 18. So this was one of the reasons that they should have been registered in order to vote by December 5th. So the process, concluded already.
So this is it. Do you think that the window you allowed them, you captured most of them? Is that your impression, or what?
I would say we captured all of them that turn up.
So what was the window? How long was it?
The window was the supplementary registration.
Yes.
In fact, that's the essence of the supplementary registration. One, in order to capture those who missed the general registration, number one. Number two, in order to capture the new voters, these who we call the new voters. These are people who are already turned 18 or would turn 18 by the next general election. So I would say all those people that turn up or that applied to be registered, fully registered during the process. This was during the supplementary registration. It was conducted.
So that's over. Yeah. Can you give us the figures? How many new voters do we have?
Well, I would say the figures have been released. I'm not very good at figures.
Okay.
But I know we did some press releases on that. The chairman also did some statements during the monthly forum. And as of now, I think these are provisional figures. I have to clarify. So the figures would only be authentic once the process concludes. Because right now, the pressures of education have already been conducted. This is where we go through every person that registered, whether the person have registered before, yes or no, and if yes, then this person will be flagged. Because in fact, we may recall in our previous engagements, we didn't have engagements, and then we saw that there were a lot of double or multiple registrations.
That's it. We will come to that. Exactly. We will come to duplications and all the rest of it and what you did about it.
Exactly.
So now, gentlemen, observations, questions?
Yeah, once again, thank you very much, Mr. Mboch and Pamakan. Good to have you on the program. Like you mentioned, we all agree and believe that, the credibility of every election is to just determine on the day of the voting itself. Events leading to the actual elections is very crucial as far as, the credibility of every election is concerned. I know you've just expressed, confidence in your level of preparations. However, for me, or for most people who are watching, they will say, okay, the preparations should be demonstrated through measurable indicators and not just that, general assurance. It's important because the public actually deserves to know not just, the level of preparations or how the preparations are progressing, But how far have you progressed as far as this whole preparation is concerned? I know for certain in the last election, 2021, I mean, we saw the ECOWAS election observer mission and the Commonwealth observer group. I mean, they commended the IEC for organizing what they describe as generally peaceful and, of course, I mean, credible elections. But they also, I mean, make observations regarding transparency and, of course, timely communications. I mean, and of course, regarding the preparedness of the IEC, which is for me is very important. And I think the IEC should be more visible. They should really engage the public by giving us real-time updates as to what's being done as far as the election is concerned, because that will help you in building or strengthening that public trust. Is very important. Public trust is key as far as the election is concerned. Mr. Mbo just asked you about the number of new voters. I mean the supplementary voter registration. I can tell you it's 212,995. I mean new registered voters, and then 115,504 are women, and then 96,581 are men. And of course, like you mentioned, we have about around 24,000 people who made multiple registration as far as this process is concerned. But like I said, the IEC must understand that the credibility of the election is not just determined on the day of the election, and this will be very much visible in terms of engaging the public. The public must know at every point what the IEC is up to, because transparency is key in this whole entire process.
Do you want to respond to that?
Very well. So I would just have to say that I think the IEC has been very informative, I would say, and very transparent. Because let me just say this: elections, goes in facets, in leaps and bounds. First is the voter registration, which in its own self, has various facets or various levels or various stages. So already at the beginning of the voter registration, the commission came out and did a massive press conference. Where all stakeholders were present, inform and update Gambian people that we are going to the voter registration, and this, is what is at hand, and this is what we plan to do. This was done and dusted. Again, during the process, midway, another engagement was called. We in fact called this the monthly stakeholder forum, where the commission will, seek to, provide constant information or timely and accurate information to the public as to what stage are they in this process of the voter registration. And then when it was concluded also, another stakeholder forum was done, that the process has concluded, and now it even released provisional figures, I would say. These are still provisional figures, because they are also going through a process. I mentioned we did the adjudication already, and after that, we've just concluded the publication of the provisional register, which was done nationwide by the teams. In fact, yesterday I was already in the provinces. I was in the Fonies, and we had to, all teams have already been deployed. We are all in the field as of now, making sure that the provisional register have been deployed, have been published and pasted at the designated centers. This is done. And then another stage now where we are is called the process of appeals and objections. So these are stages, step by step. So I think the issue of the elections, I think this in fact may have to wait. Because right now it's all about the voter registration.
So what do you mean by designated center? So what happens? The voter list, every constituency, you have somewhere that you can paste it, everybody can see it. How does it work? Tell me precisely how it works.
Very well. As we may recall, the commission designated, I think, over 700 registration centers nationwide in every constituency. So in which, once the register have been completed, then by law, the commission is required to publish the register in the same center or the same place where people were registered at their local level, so that they can have the opportunity to walk by and check. And again, this is for two reasons. It's for appeals, and also it's for objections. So appeals in the sense that somebody may have to check whether his or her name is captured in the register. Very well. No spelling errors, no errors in her personal details, and so. And number two, for the purpose of objections, where somebody may object that, yes, Mr. Mboj's name is on the provisional register. But I think for one reason or another, Mr. Mboj is not eligible to be registered because of A, B, or C. Maybe because he's not a Gambian, or two, he's underage. So this is called the process of objection. This is where we are currently.
All right. So you are at that process where people can object or not. So all of these centers, all the names have been pasted.
All these centers, the lists have been pasted,
That's
the
it.
provisional register, even though there was, I would say, a technical glitch. In some of those few centers, I think during the printout, you know, some few copies were left, which in fact, our attention was drawn to that, and it was immediately rectified.
You rectified
so that
it.
those few pages missing were then also pasted for people to view their names for the purpose of appeals or objections.
Mr. Dabo?
Yes, so I would want him to talk about this appeals and objection in a minute. But previously you made mention of a procurement process. So please, can we take a few minutes to talk about that process? How do you go about that procurement process? And if probability we could know this particular company that is taking care of this duty, because it came during the national ID card registration process. Citizens expressed concern about a particular foreign company handling data of national
Mr. Dabo, we're having some technical, what do we call it, glitch right now. So we're going to take a short commercial break and we'll fix it. Okay. Don't move, we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Money is changing the game with mobile money payments. Now, you can pay your Qcell mobile broadband plan faster, easier, and way more convenient with your QMoney wallet. Just open the QMoney app or dial *323#. Select option 4 to buy or pay your broadband plan in seconds. No stress, no lines, no last-minute panic. Whether you're streaming your favorite shows, browsing the web, or working from home, stay connected without missing a beat. Stay connected the easy way with QMoney's Qcell mobile broadband payments anytime, anywhere. For more information, call customer care on 133. QMoney, Sunikalpe. Terms and conditions apply.
maa ngi nii Craft Market Serekunda may jaay ay malaan ay kiring te suma number mooy 522 7306.
Assalamualaikum. Aha, poketa pila men fali so mi donnam no mama si me mi wara ma call. Adu 3 7 3 6 9 44.
Telepon ni lañ bëggoon seen téléphone si ngeen bëgg. Waaw Alice baa ngi nii. Waaw yaa booy. mooy li ma la doon di waxal ndax soo passé sa grade 9 exam bi dinaa la surprise.
Papa jërëjëf papa kontaan naa papa.
mooy 507 5445.
jërëjëf papa kontaan naa jërëjëf.
man la Have Design maa ngi located Safidine man mii maay buuri ñëwkat yi dama dee ñëw birthday dress prom suma noo mooy 345 7377.
Ndelen lamin dawo non ha Swiss baba na lafta fe ni mala na dadal na no mum 3737805
Maremu yere yani lasana bangal bitigi aswana yere nomba ke yani 3737181. Check me in, check me out.
Malla Dawra from Tajikistan. Wedding la de ligue dama job I bunta I frontière bi moy suma nomba bi 3855798.
man la Bamba borom cuuraay yu nexe lépp lu waay soxla ci wàllu cuuraay boo ñëwee fii suma place da nga ko fekk suma nomba mooy 3195188.
Ha na nomba dia la 3100875. Ha wala na nomba di. Hey, la ilaha illallah ma shiba mane koro sise. Alo konde de kibaro la. Hakulo be wona.
Alafa mama ko guy transporter felentiring the only transporter in town nan kisol number mo minde wala 3070304 taxi cinema nan woni jam transport
dama doppa sani yere gëm naa suma xela paanu man bu ma kenn di laal wala di ma jege if not man naa la gaañu man li may faj mu ci xale bi ne moom xam na la dama daa Suma system to know, daimeli suma khelaba. Sa suma lagi sul, daimeli damangele man. I'll be singing out of Qtv'S, my gun again. Demuma, fen, khamuma, ken, kisuma, len, ludul salo. Kumelio, masuma ko gisman mle. Kisuma, ken, khamuma, len. Thanks so very much. Why not? Let's do that.
Oh, can I have your number?
333-3207.
Hello, welcome back to Decision 2026, QTV's flagship election program, following the Gambia's road to the December 2026 presidential election. Just before the break, Ibrahima Dabo had the floor. You were about to ask, but we had to take the break because we had to deal with some gremlins, as they call them. So let's go back to what you said.
I wanted to know, before we come to the objection and appeals, because he made mention of a procurement process for the printing of the cards, was it? So how do you go about with that procurement process? You know, because we live in an age where citizens normally raise concerns over their data, the entrustment of their data to certain companies, especially if it is a foreign company. So how do you go about with that? And does the company that win the procurement process satisfies the public?
Yes, thank you very much. I think procurement is normally a very contentious issue. But nonetheless, the procurement for the voter registration exercise was done through what they call public, open public bidding process, where the bids are open to every company, Gambian or international, to bid. And during which process, the IEC was guided by the procurement rules, the GPPA public procurement rules, the Gambia public procurement laws, I would say. And in this process, the most, how they say, their own terminologies, the most responsive company was the ESI, that's the Electoral Service International Company, which is, I think, a Canadian company. They won the bid, and they were the company that supported the process, they supplied the materials, the gadgets used. And again, in terms of the data, I would say, the data belongs to the IEC. The data is in the custody of the IEC, but nonetheless, that the company also provides what they call service support to the IEC. That is, they support the IEC in handling the data in country, I would say. In fact, the data is very secure. Even today or next tomorrow, the IEC's election house is burnt. The data can still be available, because there are enough backups in this process.
No, the security issue here is, at a time when data is one of the most expensive commodities, should we entrust a foreign company with information on our citizens?
I think we cannot help, because that's the process, that's the law. The law provides that companies bid, and the bid was done, and they won. And again, they are managing the process on behalf of IEC. And the data, I would say, is in the custody of the IEC. But they are also providing support in case there are some hitches, some glitches. They will always come in, to make us go through the process. But I would say the data is in the custody of the IEC.
Okay, so that brings me to the actual question of appeals and objections. As we speak, how many appeals or objections do you have, and how are you processing those appeals before you start your revising course on the 27th?
Well, I cannot give out the numbers. I'm not very good in saying numbers, because we think this is a process. The process just opened, I think, on the 7th, where people can appeal or people can object. So for now, I think very few. I'm not sure even there is any for now. Even though the process continues till the 20th of July, because it's a process, the window opened on the 17th, and it will last till the 20th of July. During this process, then people can make their appeals or objections. So it's still an ongoing process. So I would be more comfortable on the 24th to say that this is the number of appeals or this number of objections. But for now, I think it's an ongoing process. So we yet to make the compile the figures countrywide to see, what are the numbers for now.
That's it for this segment. Very quickly, we need to move on. We have a few segments. But just one more thing. With the procurement, his question, you said that you followed all the processes. Were you audited?
Well, I would say I'm not an expert in procurement, but I just have to say that the process was conducted as per law, guided by the GPPA, which is the entity, the entity mandated to oversee public procurement in the Gambia.
Granted, I don't want to sound cynical, but it's just that so far, from the National Audit Office, their audits, what we've seen, public officials ignoring procedures set in place. When we look at the National Assembly Select Committees, their reports as well, they've been indicating this, paints this kind of picture. That is why I hope you do not mind for me to ask you whether actually, if you were to be audited, say all of these institutions were audited, if you were to be audited, would it be found that you actually conform to the processes and procedures put in place?
I will not be able to say that as of now. So, but what I can say was due process was followed.
Okay.
As per the existing laws on public procurement.
Okay,
yeah.
Granted.
Okay.
So, I think let's sort of move on a bit now.
Yeah. But
or
Mr.
do you have
yes, I just want part to help and clarify some of these issues. I mean, you said, the bidding process was open tender. Certainly, yes, these are issues that people sometimes tend to raise questions. Yes, in the open, you can claim that it was an open tender, very transparent, but in actuality, behind the scenes, it was already handed to someone that there was already that preconceived mind. Okay, we are going to give it to this particular company. And earlier on, we discussed about the issue of the multiple registration, 24,000, registered voters.
Yeah.
Could you just share with us, does this in any way indicate weaknesses in the registration process, or it's just so that, there is that, ISIS verification system is working as intended?
Thank you.
That's interesting. We've gone actually now to the second segment, the voter registration.
Thank
you very much.
Right word.
That's it.
Just to say that the company that is managing the process has a robust mechanism in place, such that it was able to pick over 24,000 cases of double or multiple registrations. This shows that the company's software is up to the task. This is why it was able to, identify all of those doubles. However, it happens that these were the number of cases, doubles or multiples. However, as I think we may follow from the previous Monday stakeholder, that these involve over 14,000 people, meaning that 14,000 people did register 2 or more times, amounting to the 24,000 in the cases identified by the software. So I think this means that we are doing the job as expected.
Yeah, but I just want to confirm. My colleague here, Ibrahim, did ask about the revising codes. Can you establish, is there any revising code set up as we speak?
I would say that the process is ongoing, appeals and objection, and I just learned that in fact as of now there is no appeal and no objection. Okay, and again I think when this is done, then I know that the commission wrote to the Ministry of Justice, I think the AG chambers, they are supposed to appoint the revising magistrates who are to preside over the revising courts. So I think that would be a matter for the MOJ.
So, but it hasn't been set up yet?
I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Although I know the process is ongoing, people as at the 7th, people can make their appeals or make their objections. But as of now, none have been done for now.
So how does the court, process works? Take us through.
Yes.
And how transparent is it?
The revising court, I would say, this is a court. This is an established court of law under the Gambian legal system. And then the mandate of the revising court, I know this is normally an ad hoc court. The court, comes up when there is this voter registration and then goes to the process, handles appeals and objection. These are legal matters, I wouldn't know exactly.
Of course.
And again, once the court completes or hears all these cases, then the court will do a ruling that objection A is accepted or objection B is rejected or appeal A is accepted or rejected. And once this is concluded, then the revising court or the revising magistrate will then make a ruling on the various cases, rulings that would have to be enforced by the IEC. For example, if it's an appeal that, yes, this man appealed and then he have to be included, we have to. And then if there's an objection that somebody's name was objected to, and then the court ruled that no, the objection wouldn't hold, then the person's name would be on the register. And once all this process is concluded, then the revising magistrate then would then sign the register, making it the official voter register. So this would conclude the process of voter registration. Then opening a new chapter for the election process, which will of course start with the nomination process.
Very quickly there, earlier on, you took the fact that the system could detect this double registrations and all of that.
Yes.
That to be proof that the system is working.
Yeah.
What about, how did it happen in the first place?
Thank you.
And that's the more reason why I was asking that question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
I think doubles or multiples would come about for various reasons. Number one, it may be our own fault, I have to say. We have to admit that sometime during the process, there may be a glitch here and there. And then if, like in the course of registering somebody, there's an error, either by the applicant or by the team. So the system would automatically capture that as a double. Number one, that may be a possibility. Number two, there is also the possibility that a person can fraudulently attempt to register more than once. Because actually we don't have an online system where we can detect immediately that A or B is already registered. However, there was a mechanism put in place where the registration team would ask the person whether you have registered in 2021. In fact, this is the first question they ask you. Even though I know some had issues with that we must not ask a question. But then this was done in order to prevent cases of double registration. Because if you register in 2021, it means you are already registered. You don't need to register. So some, I think, for ignorance or some for misinformation, they come to register again. And then the team would always ask them, did you register? Some would say, no, I didn't register. But again, it happens that sometimes they would even verify from the system and say, no, you have registered. So in this case, the person will be thrown away, meaning that he or she didn't register. But sometimes some may beat the system, whereby you may, because the data loaded on the machine, we are at regional level. So if you move from Banjul, for example, to Basse, so the Basse teams will not be able to have your data, at their level.
So things are not integrated.
No, exactly. This is why I said we don't have an online system up and running, whereas we can immediately detect that somebody is registered. So this is when everything had been compiled, then brought to the servers for adjudication, where the machine would check the fingerprints, the IDs, and all that. We detect, yes, this guy registered in Banjul in 2021. Now here he is registering in Kanifing, or this person registered on the 1st in Kanifing, Larikunda. Now here he is registered again in Bakau, and registered again, in Larikunda, for example.
So there are flaws in the system.
I would say there are flaws in the process, not in the system.
What's the difference between the process and the
Because,
system?
but the system would be able to pick up any cases of double. Very robust system.
How can you guarantee
however,
that? You've identified what you've identified,
yes.
But how do you guarantee that that's it?
Yes, that's it. So this is why, in fact, once these doubles have been identified, we come back to the public. Because we always say the electoral process is not owned by the IEC, it is only managed by the IEC. So we come back to the stakeholders. And in fact, just to indicate that, in fact, registering more than once is even a crime. And you have some hefty penalties attached to it. If you register more than once, register double, I think you are once found liable and convicted, you may be convicted to a fine of, I think, 500,000, or barred from voting for a period of 10 years. So there are hefty fines or hefty penalties attached to cases of double or multiple registration.
Yeah, which is very important. So at this point, I want us to help our listeners, our viewers rather, to understand these appeals and objections. Okay. So this happens when, if I understand, the eligibility of a particular voter is contested, or probably someone is denied registration who feels that he or she is qualified. So in that situation, that is where appeals and objections would happen.
Very well.
Okay.
Well said.
So I think it's important because we've always been saying the words all the time, but maybe probably our viewers don't.
I don't understand. Yeah, very well, very well, very well.
So
yeah.
that's very important, and maybe Mr. Mboj could pick up from there.
No, the appeal system, of course, everybody must understand the process, the procedure, how long it is likely to take, and all of that. These are certain details. For me now, I was just thinking of how do we quickly get through segment 2. We've got other stuff to think about. Constituency delimitation, that goes to the very heart of representation. Anything done within that? Are we happy with the current boundaries of the constituencies?
Yes, I would say no, because in strict terms, there must be parity. But this is not the case.
Why not? Can't you do anything about it?
Even though I know Janjambure is the smallest.
Absolutely.
And Kombo North used to be the biggest. Now it's divided into Sani Mentereng, Old Yundum. And now I know that still Janjambure is the smallest, with about less than 2,000 or so, I'm not sure. And I think Kombo South is even the biggest now, about 49,000 or so, I'm not very sure. But I know there is a huge parity, a huge difference in the sizes or in terms of numbers of constituencies. And I would say the issue of demarcation is not on the table for now. Maybe in subsequent electoral cycles, then we can again engage the public, the stakeholders, and how you go about doing this.
So it's not a priority?
Right now, it's not even on the table for this cycle.
You can make a case. You can make a case here. For example, in this case of Janjambure, for example, geographically, Janjambure's location qualifies it in another way to be a constituency of its own. So you could advance those geographic reasons to say, although it is the smallest constituency, but then it qualifies to be one, and it has been since the colonial period, for example. You can advance those. Maybe you might, for the cases of Sanementerang, for example, you might not make adequate cases, or present good evidences like that of Janjambure. But in a situation where the IEC believes, although the numbers are small, but geographically that particular constituency could be the way it is, then you could maintain it as how it is.
But maybe some may argue that Janjambure used to have a geographical barrier, but now there is none, at least on the other side, because there is a bridge you can cross in 2 minutes. Exactly. So, but it's subject to public debate, and I will just have to say that demarcation is one of the most controversial issues.
That's what I'm saying.
Because
so that controversy will come, for example, in the case of Janjambure. So now, does it become part of Nyani or part of Lower Fuladu,
exactly,
for example, or Upper Fuladu, for example? So the controversy will always come, and I think there are certain constituencies that has the same similar features, which also, if you want to bring in issues of demarcation, such controversies will arise as well.
Absolutely, very interesting topic, because demarcation, I would say, is always very controversial. Janjambure will say, no, leave us alone. You go to Banjul, very small. They say, no, we are the capital, leave us alone. You go to the Phoenix, very big but sparsely populated. He said, no, we have a vast land area. Leave us alone. So it's very tricky and technical. But just to say that for now, this is even not on the table.
Maybe before Mr. Mboy will come, just to say one thing about that. Like, for example, there are polling stations that have less than 300 votes, for example. Are there any plans maybe to integrate those polling centers to bigger polling centers closer to them?
Not at all. Because I know that the issue of accessibility is very important. We know there are some very remote villages, less than 400 voters. They are assigned a polling station. And again, we know that even the bigger settlements, they will be provided with more polling stations. These are where we call streams. Yes. Normally, like, if you reach the target of 800, then this area would be split to create a new polling station. However, those with very small populations or voters, and due to remoteness or distance or other difficulties, they will be let alone.
Absolutely. We cannot exhaust everything that we can talk about when you take any topic, really. Let's move on to something quite interesting. Earlier on, we got certain surveys done by Afrobarometer, quite interesting, regarding trust in the IEC. So I've got one here. Who trusts the IEC? This was done in 2024, mind you. We are now in 2026, granted. Now, look at this. Rural, the people polled in the rural areas, 46% said yes. In the urban, 38. Now, men, 43. Women, 39%. They seem more skeptical of things, women. What do you make of that? Why, if you are following all the rules, regulations, procedures, you are communicating with people, with citizens, how do you explain these low figures in people's trust in the IEC?
I would say we respect academic opinion. But one thing we have to say is that the Commission does everything possible to make sure that the electoral process is very inclusive, no one left behind. Number two, the process is very transparent, making sure that the process, would be done without an iota of, anything hidden. We know voting is done secretly, but then we make sure that the process is as transparent as possible. Whereas we take along all the stakeholders, the voter, you are a voter, you know how the process goes. You are a candidate, we go together. You accompany us in the process from A to Z. That's from when polls open till when polls close. In fact, just to say that even in this voter registration, just recently concluded, the stakeholders accompanied the IEC all the way from opening of the centers till the close of the centers. So I think this is a very key element in terms of trust in the process.
The counting. Take us through the process of counting as well.
Exactly. I think the same rules applies. I'll just have to say that the Commission takes this as a pride that it is one of the most transparent commissions, not only in Africa. I think the whole world. The whole world, absolutely.
With our marbles?
with our special marbles, okay. For that matter. Okay. And then in terms of transparency, this is the watchword for all of us as electoral officers, that we make it as transparent as possible to all the stakeholders, including political parties or candidates who are contesting in the election, including to the media, giving them free access, free accreditation. We know some countries you pay to be accredited. Three, the civil society. They are accompanying the process, all the way. So I think this is just to show that the Commission does what is possible, making sure that all the processes from registration to election, that's voting, to even to counting, up to when results are declared. It is all transparently done, and the process, includes all and sundry, all stakeholders present without no hurdles to participate in the process. Nobody denied to participate. I think that's the best we can do.
Okay, so gentlemen, now either questions or perspective, very, very quickly, but I'll just read this. In 2018, trust in the IEC stood at 64%. This is trust in the IEC. And then 2021, this is according to Afrobarometer, really, it dropped to 49%. And then 2022 to 40%. 2024 now to 41%. Gentlemen, what can one attribute this drastic drop from 64 2018 to now 41? What's going on here?
Yeah,
what do you think?
Once again, thank you very much, Mr. Mboj. Like you said, the issue of trust in the IEC, I will keep emphasizing, is very important. Probably, I mean, yes, in terms of organizing elections, the IEC has been praised for organizing what many would describe as credible elections. But certainly, I mean, that report, I mean, by the NAO, National Audit Office, special auditing on the IEC accounts, I mean, where it revealed that, I mean, over $300 million was diverted into private bank accounts, even though IEC officials tried to justify and explain why that was the case. That could have also been a player in this whole thing, why people begin to lose trust in the IEC. But that's also something that I would like Parmakan to explain. What are you doing different? And so in this case, we don't have millions being diverted into private accounts to make certain payments.
Very important question. Thank you, Ali. And I think one thing have to be clear. Election is a very important endeavor. Okay? Even though they say, if you think election is expensive, maybe try war. But I know this is a democracy, and election goes with cost. And I would just have to say that I think Gambia's election budget is one of the smallest compared to many countries, even with our neighbors. And then I would just have to say
but that probably that also has to do with the number of, I mean, registered voters that we have. We cannot compare the number of voters in the Gambia with Senegal. Senegal is bigger. So certainly our funding cannot be equal.
Not at all. Go and check Liberia. Liberia and Gambia, what's the difference? Liberia has a higher budget. But then that may not be an issue. I just have to say that at the time, that was viewed to be the most convenient way of conducting the elections. Okay? Making sure that elections, the funds are disbursed to officials who would implement the activities, and then who would retire accordingly and appropriately. At the time, that was the most feasible. Then going forward, even though other authorities have issues with it, but going forward now, the new mechanism would be, with this new era of digital economy, so now the Commission would be looking into ways of, using the digital platforms, to disburse funds, to make payments, and to do whatever it needs to do. So going forward, funds will not be paid to any person, any IEC officials. Funds will be paid digitally to the relevant persons or the affected persons, be it companies, be it individuals. I think that's the way forward.
So if everything was done appropriately, why was there a recommendation for police investigation into these funds?
Well, I would say that's a different authority. I cannot speak for them. But I can speak for IEC that things were done appropriately, as expected, and as per the Elections Act. And note that IEC relies on the Elections Act, that IEC would see ways and means of, judiciously using funds and then accounting for every butut. This was done adequately. Even though another authority would have a different perspective of all these issues. But then, just to say that going forward, we would have a new dimension where digital platforms would be the mode of payment for all IEC expenditures.
Quickly, Mr. Rabo, do you want to add anything to that?
I wanted to say, obviously, it would be common sense that trust and confidence in IEC would rise in 2018, because remember we've just come from 2016, an election where we get rid of dictatorship, and then at that time a lot of people were praising IEC, for having the confidence to republish the results, even though they knew there was a little bit of error in tabulation. So there was public confidence in IEC just as the aftermath of 2016. But in 2021, remember, the opposition came together to contest the results. So at the time, because there was that contest, so the popularity of IEC automatically, would come down based on that contest. And naturally, we would respect that, because of the procedures at the time that were going on. But then, I think what Ali said, now the audit report becomes another problem that brings down IEC's popularity. Absolutely. But there is another issue that Mr. Khan needs to clarify here, but because also there are questions mark raised over the recruitment of temporal staffs, because IEC recruit more temporal staff than any office probably in this country, and the public keeps asking questions about that recruitment process, and over time there are a lot of question marks over the process of recruitment of those temporal staff. So, yes.
So you mean the temporary staff, this is towards the election, isn't it? But how is that? Is it to reach the whole of the Gambia, every remote village? And explain that. How many people are employed?
Yes, I know the IEC employs over 10,000 temporary staff.
Okay.
And again, the process is done in an open manner, where the commission would make public announcements or public advertisements that people are vacancies are available for people to apply for A, B, C, or D, as presiding officer, as assistant presiding officer, you name it. And in fact, we just had one just for the voter registration, where over 400 people, 400 temporary staff were hired. In the same process, applications, letters, notices were sent to the public as a public notice that people are invited to apply. They applied. Number two, the applicants were shortlisted by the IEC. Number three, the applicants were calling for an interview. Number four, the applicants were even subjected to an IT test. So I think the process is very transparent and is also done in a
transparent way.
Duly processed.
So now let's go to transparency.
Yeah.
That's really what the issue is.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
So, Pinga, do you think that Gambians, are we receiving enough voter education, civic education, that sort of thing? The youth, what are you doing to sort of attract them? And persons with disabilities, polling stations, would they have that? So this will include inclusion, person with disabilities, and women, youth. Any special sort of program to get them to come and vote?
Yeah, very well. I think that's even under my own purview.
Okay.
That's the communications department, where we continue to do continuous voter education. I think this is even one of that.
Yes.
Where we communicate with the public as to where we are and where we are now and where we are heading to. And again, there is a constant communication, even though we have issues of budget at times, but then we devise various channels of communication with the public, including face-to-face. Recently, our teams were deployed in far and wide in every region, where they go with these voice hailers with their PA systems. Of course, thanks to UNDP, they supported greatly in that aspect in terms of equipment, and this will continue. Number two, the engagement. We normally have this monthly stakeholder engagement where we bring all stakeholders from all the political parties, from civil society, from the media, from other specialized agencies, government departments, ministries, you name it, just to make sure that everybody is included in the process, to make it transparent and to include everybody else. Then also we devise various channels of communication online. We do a lot of online outreach. It's ongoing. So I think we just have to redouble our efforts. So I think we've decided to go all out. And again, I think even the process with the new commission in place, there are some issues that they take up as a mantra, that to make it as inclusive as possible, inclusivity. And number two, for compliance. Of course, we know the public, some of their concerns in terms of compliance. The audit maybe and all of them. So now we're looking up to where we try to be as compliant as possible, making sure that we do as per the law. So we're doing our best, to reach that target. And again, the issue of transparency. I think we can only buttress more and more. We are already transparent. We just try to maybe go more than the 100% mark. So we continue to do our best to make sure that everybody is included, the youth, the PWD, the women, and all that. In fact, there is even this project that we are trying to come up with, where every polling station would be provided with a ramp so that wheelchair users can have easy access. And number one, even before going there, just to say that IEC, we made sure that as much as possible, all polling stations, all voter registration centers are located at ground level.
Okay.
So that nobody have to, use a staircase or use a lift to go up. That's the number one, that's option A. And if this is not feasible, then we may look out for other options. But number one, we make sure that all the polling stations are located on the ground. You walk in and enter your polling station.
So you've designated now all the polling stations, I wonder? Have you finished that process?
The process is ongoing.
It's ongoing.
As of now, I know you have over 1,500 and something.
What's the target?
I may not be able to know, that's operations, but I know that with these, once the register is completed and it will be added to the 2021 register, it means that more centers would have to be added, just to make sure that the process is as inclusive as possible and people are given easier access to come easily in your neighborhood, you vote, and then you go back to your home. And again, the bigger centers I know, then more would be added to decongest the polling station, just to make sure that it is accessible and people don't have to wait a lot of time in trying to vote.
I think very quickly, I think we've had enough of that. We need to move on.
Exactly.
So very quickly.
Yes, so for me, I just want to, you mentioned about issue of voter education. I mean, you mentioned the efforts you've been doing to ensure people are well centered about the election. But I believe also the NCC also has a huge role as far as the voter education is concerned. Yes, certainly there are also a challenge as far as, resources are concerned. But, you can partner with them. There's a lot you can do together, because this also one of their core mandates as an institution to ensure, they're able to, educate people about their civic responsibilities. And I think it's important that you definitely, work with them. The other thing you said about the issue of the lessons learned from what happened about these millions. Yes, certainly one will understand, yes, you have millions, you have temporary staff, you have drivers that you need to pay, and they don't have the person to wait. Yeah, probably that could be an idea, but it's good that you're learning from that lesson and trying to improve in the upcoming elections. But certainly, you really need to work with the NCCE to ensure you are able to make that impact as far as the voter education is concerned.
I'm sure you've given him food for thought.
Yeah.
Let me just respond
very quickly.
In 5 seconds.
Very quickly.
That we already, collaborate with NCC. They are one of our strongest partners. Even the human rights. Even I think by next week we'll be having a collabo with them, where we will visit all regions. And again, just to note that there is some difference. Voter education, that's for IEC, and civic education is for NCC.
Yes.
But we partner,
absolutely,
to make a bigger force.
Absolutely. Our next segment, managing political competition. Are all parties treated equally?
Absolutely.
Not the ruling party is not giving any preferential treatment?
Not at all. We always say every party is sovereign. Huh? Gambia has, I think, 1 vote in the UN. Huh? USA has only 1 vote in the UN, even though they have other veto powers. But when it comes to election, there is one very important principle. That's fair play, level playing field. What is done for party A will be done for all the other parties. So this is where we make sure that there is equal treatment. There is no small party. All parties are political parties created by Gambians, and they have their political rights. So I just have to say that all political parties are at the same footing in terms of IEC dealings with them.
Before you come in, gentlemen, he just said something very interesting there. Your analogy. Yes, we have the same number of votes in the UN, but he said the US has powers in other areas. Maybe here the ruling party has powers in other areas. What an interesting analogy there. Gentlemen, come in.
A strong and interesting analogy, but then a very sensible analysis as well. You know, it's very important. And then if you look at the statistics, yeah, but if you look at the statistics, I think this is reflected on the statistics as well. That people close to the ruling party has more confidence in the Electoral Commission than people close to the opposition.
Yes, let me just give the figures. Fascinating figure here. IEC trust splits along party lines. It's quite interesting. With the ruling party, 67, this is about the ruling party, 67% said they had trust in the IEC. And with the opposition, 38. Fascinating. This is very, very, very interesting. Well, I suppose if you're a winner, you can just trust the referee.
Of course.
If you lose, then you start saying, that's a dodgy referee.
Yeah, winners will always trust the referee. And in this situation, you know, I think that is why I like the question you asked.
Yes.
Are other parties favored above others? You know, and then maybe the ruling party, does the ruling party has favors from IEC? You know, that's an important question, because that is the perception within the opposition, that in fact the IEC is not a referee. Okay, the IEC in certain conditions give favors to the ruling party. That's what the opposition will address at all times.
That brings us to how independent is the commission? Who appoints the commission? Who appoints the chairman?
Yes.
That's where the question comes in now.
Yes,
you appointed, probably people will assume, okay, you have sort of influence over the chairman. I'm not saying that's the case, but there's a perception of especially those in the opposition, that yes, because you appoint the chairman, you have an influence over him.
Yes, I just have to say that I think in terms of party, in terms of political parties, they are all treated equally. Even though I know in terms of some activities, you may have some parties, you know, being represented more or less. But such as appointing of polling agents, for example. Because normally we invite every party to send 2 polling agents at every polling station. But at the end, just maybe some few would send. The rest may not, for whatever reason.
Probably they don't have the financial means to pay all these agents.
But then we've already provided the opportunity to all of them at an equal footing. So it's up to them to take it or not to take it. And number 2, the issue of appointment, I think these are done in accordance to Gambian laws, unless we have issues with the law. But as per the law, I think appointments for the chairman or commissioners are done as per law.
Yeah, but
if we have issues with the law, maybe let's go back to the drawing board.
For me, like Mr. Boy said, I mean, when you are winning, the IEC is fair and credible. I mean, we know, I mean, in the presidential election, yes, the NPP won, but in the subsequent National Assembly elections, we saw what happened. The NPP flopped big time.
It was,
you know, from Banjul to Kalaji, they had only 1 National Assembly seat, and that was hailed as IEC being credible. But like you said, I mean, that's how politics is. Yeah, when you're winning, the IEC is credible. But when we are losing...
Yeah. But I wonder, what safeguards are in place to make sure that you treat all parties equally? There is no political influence, no political interference in your operations.
I know when IEC operates, especially in terms of election, voter registration, all parties are invited to come as players, you know, in the process. Number 2, in terms of their participation, no party is restricted. They are all fully invited, you know, to observe the process or to contest in every election. So I wonder where we would have cases of unfair treatment.
If we were to play by the rules, do you think some parties should have existed by now? No, let's be honest to each other. No disrespect to any political party. But Mr. Mbot, you and I will agree there are certain political parties, they are just there by name.
Exactly.
But in reality, you know, they have a lot of fakes. So if IEC is playing by the rules, certain parties should have been registered by now.
Exactly. So this why now.
So why are you being lenient as far as that issue is concerned?
So this why even now the Commission is looking seriously at the issue of compliance. How do we comply with the existing laws? Making sure that if you need a red card, you are giving a red card. If you need a yellow, you are giving a yellow. If you need yesterday the match, the England match, if you do something wrong, you are warned or given a yellow. I think this process have already started. That in fact we having more and more political parties upcoming. That's their political right. But then we've seen that also some are not very much compliant. In fact, there was an activity in January for us to assess the level of compliance, in which case parties were invited to present the list of their executives, also to report on their party bureaus, to report on their various issues like their audited accounts, and all those issues. But I think the engagements, is ongoing, although they may accuse us of being too lenient. But I think we continue to engage them, making sure that they all comply with the necessary regulations.
Yeah, it's about.
I'm interested. I want to know, because earlier on, just a few minutes ago, he made mention of having a joint tour with the National Human Rights Commission. And I think this is to ensure that the rights of voters, are well respected. And that brings us to the issue of security. We know security must be provided during the process. But how do you ensure that security is provided that also did not intimidate voters at a certain level?
That's it. With security, that would be our next segment. We will deal with that. But right now, very quickly, yeah?
Okay.
Very quickly, we'll deal with security. That's our next segment. Yes. Right now, do you have any rules on government using resources, public resources for their own campaigns?
I think the government is not a contender in elections, but I know
the party in power. The ruling party.
The ruling party.
The ruling party is really the government, isn't it?
The ruling party, we want to say.
Yes. Okay.
I think I'm not quite sure that's legal. But I know that in terms of political party.
Do you have any regulation regarding that? I think that's really what my question is. Do you have any regulation regarding that?
Yes, I think the laws provide that public officials must not use public resources in terms of their own political activities.
How do you monitor it? How do you enforce it?
Normally, political parties during campaign, they are given what they call the code of conduct, which you would stipulate all the rules, all the regulations that you have to comply with. Failure which the IEC has the right to cancel your nomination. So normally the Commission does its best to make sure that political parties, they comply with these laws and regulations. And where they fail, we would normally engage them, making sure that they comply with this.
Yeah, but I know for sure, in the past elections, we've seen the state provide security to all the candidates during their campaign period. Yes, one will say, yes, as the president, your party is going on a campaign, you're probably using public resources. I know this is something that I once asked Ahmad Ba about, the use of public resources. And his justification was, you have to understand, he is still the president until he's voted out. And it is the responsibility of the state to ensure his security and everything is provided for. And in that case, where do we expect the state to get vehicles to use in order to provide this, this constitutional, requirement as far as the president is concerned? That's a question. Where does the state get the vehicles now to use to protect the president, who until he is voted out remains the president of this country? So sometimes these are things, there's a thin line. Sometimes it's exactly so. But like you said, the overuse of public resources to campaign is something that is against the code of conduct of the IEC. But not just that, but even the use of children, Mr. Moore.
That sort of thing.
You use people using children.
So that's it. You can broaden it out, you deal with it. And also campaign finance. Yeah. Is there anything on financing of these campaigns?
That's another tricky, yeah?
I know all these things were captured in the rejected 2021 draft constitution, that political parties must declare their source of funding. Okay. all these things were captured in, in the draft constitution, and probably that's buried now.
Not only that, even the political parties, their audited accounts, I think that's also another tricky issue. That by law, they are supposed to provide audited accounts to the IEC. But most of them, I don't know, not compliant. And again,
how many parties are compliant?
Well, I'm not able to say right now, but I know that the commission
not one. You don't know even one party that has just compliant.
I'm not very sure.
So granted, I don't want to and granted, and quickly before we come in, quickly, why are these cases tricky? You use this word tricky. Why?
Yes, tricky. I would say even the cases of campaign finance, by law, foreign individuals must not fund any political party. And again, illicit, I think campaign financing must not be done by any, illicit or criminal organizations. But how do we
can you enforce
that this political party is not funded by Al-Qaeda or is not funded by who?
So you cannot, you don't have the capacity.
Exactly.
You don't have the capacity to enforce these regulations.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, quickly we
exactly.
finish this.
That's why I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask whether IEC has the capacity to monitor violations of the electoral code, and in a situation of a violation, how do they handle that particular violation?
Exactly. I even mentioned some of those things. That sometimes there may be a violation because right now, and he said that some should even have been registered because they didn't fully comply. Number one, we don't want to give a straight red card, but we want to engage them, making sure that, hey, you miss one or two, please comply.
Mr. Khan,
failure which the commission reserved the right to register the political party.
Mr. Khan, some of these parties...
He's a lenient ref.
Mr. Khan, let's just face it. We have some political parties here who have been here since 2017. They don't have proper structures across the country. I mean, some of these political parties, to be honest with you, if I was a chairman of the IEC, they would have been registered by now. They are just there by name. They are briefcase political parties. They are not serious political parties.
Yeah, and
they are just occupying space there.
Yeah, these are complaints that young people, young people will always have. And these are common say within the youth folks to say, okay, now because there are not strict campaign financing rules, certain youth candidates might be at a disadvantage, because of the lack of finance.
Even with women as well. There was one study that pointed out this lack of finance.
So
I think that's a completely different topic. It should have its own program. And earlier on I said we're coming towards the end. Really, let's go quickly to protecting the election. Misinformation, security, what risks do we face now between now and polling day? How serious is misinformation, as an electoral threat?
I think as of now, the issue of fake news, misinformation, malinformation, whatever terminologies we are using, I think this is a serious threat facing not only elections, but other issues as well. And in fact, we mentioned about the issue of the double registration. Why? Somebody asked. I think there was even an element of that. That there was this social media audio that went viral, that people registered in 2016, and they have to re-register all that. And this was fake news. And in fact, this even encouraged some to come and register again. So maybe these were some of the reasons why we have so much double registrations. Again, people, I think the 2016 register was done and dusted. We had the 2021, which is in force. So why to 2026? Maybe just to misinform and manipulate people's mind.
So
I think misinformation, I think, is a serious threat in the electoral process.
So, Mr. Mboy, the IEC should understand that this is a high-stake election, this 2026. And the fact that it is a high-stake election, parties will engage in a lot of activities to ensure that their agenda sells above other candidates. And in the situation where we have AI, disable parties or political actors to use deepfakes or whatsoever AI tools they have in order to disseminate information to their advantage. And we've seen this before. Don't be surprised you see a deepfake video of Mr. Khan announcing a particular thing about IEC when it was a well-calculated one.
Yes, absolutely.
So this comes. So that is why IEC need to be very watchful in this situation, to ensure that they identify deepfakes, but ensure that, anything that has to do with AI that jeopardize the integrity of our election, it addressed amicably.
That's it. So, let me just add this, then you will come. It's not, I'm not asking, I'm asking a question.
Yeah.
So, absolutely,
Yeah.
the AI bit is very, very important.
Yes.
But there are also other important things.
Yeah.
Hate speech.
Hate speech.
Where does free speech end and electoral harm begin? That sort of thing. So, and I want you to deal with it afterwards. Now, Ali, you say what you say.
Yeah, so it's good that you mentioned the issue of hate speech. I was going to touch on that. I mean, earlier on, we talked about, financing and all those things. I want to find out from you, as far as the IEC is concerned, certainly the issue of funding has always been described as a major operational challenge. How ready is the IEC in terms of finance?
I would say the IEC is at a very strong position in terms of finance, in terms of the availability of the necessary resources to conduct elections. We just had the voter registration. I think we had the necessary funds to operate. We did. And again, coming to the question of elections, I think all elections are high stake. Even the council election is very high stake. All elections are important because Gambians would choose who to represent them. So I think for us as election experts, all elections are the same. There is no small or big.
Could be higher than
all elections, all the stakes are high.
Okay.
Always. And then number two, how do we combat fake news? I think already we've identified this as one of the serious threats in the electoral process, and already we've done various activities and will continue to double down on them.
What activities, such as?
We've engaged various partners, including fact-check organizations. Number two, we've conducted various training sessions for ourselves and for the stakeholders as well, so that we can combat
security.
Part of it? Yeah, the police, we are trained on multiple occasions, the civil society and even political parties. Some of the techniques that we can identify and combat hate speech. So I think we can only continue to buttress on that.
Earlier on, you talked about security.
Yeah,
this is
I
it.
talk about
now
security
bring it.
Because I believe,
security planning.
Security, there must be adequate security, to ensure that we protect our democracy. But how do you balance that to ensure that voters are not intimidated through security?
I think as a commission, the issue of security is not taken lightly, even though the IEC is not a security apparatus. However, I can say that as per the law, we try to be very compliant now, that the IEC has the mandate to request for security from the Office of the Inspector General of Police, for the IGP, to conduct its operations. In fact, during this recently conducted voter registration, the IEC requested one police officer for every team. But the police said no, police didn't go in one, they have to go in twos. So this was even not in our budget, but they had to provide 2 security personnel for every team. So I think this is the general understanding that election is not taken lightly, and that security needs to be provided to secure the process, to secure the voters, to secure everybody else. So I think we can only partner with the police to make sure that this is done better and amicably. And in fact, I just have to say that, in fact, the police have appointed and posted a police commissioner at the IEC just to deal with security issues. So I'm sure we will continue to collaborate with the police.
So how do you ensure that voters are not intimidated by those security officers?
Well, I wonder how voters can be intimidated by police officers.
With all honesty, I mean, yes, I don't think that is really happening now, having security intimidating voters at the polling station. Even if it's happening, these are minor cases, but it's not as it used to be, before 2017. Just a quick one, Mr. Khan.
How would they go about with that? Probably they could institute in-house training or certain form of capacity enhancement for security officers to ensure that their approach respects the right of the voters.
Exactly. So, Mr. Khan, I have a list of your schedule. I I mean, election days, we all know.
The calendar.
December, yes. The Gazette election notice, 2nd September. Nomination days and correction of, nomination papers, 26 October to 6 November. Reconciliation of campaign itineraries, 7 to 9th November. Campaign period, 24 days, 10th November to 3rd December. Last withdrawal and all those things is happening. I asked you earlier on about issue of funding. You didn't provide a concrete response to that in terms of timely disbursement of funds and all those things. Can you on record say, as we speak, IEC has no issue as far as funding is concerned?
As of now, and based on the most recent activity, which is the voter registration, the IEC had the necessary funds available to it.
How much are you looking at as far as the election is concerned?
By the government. And again, by the Minister of Finance.
How much money?
How much money are you asking for?
I'm not quite sure. Maybe that maybe is for the finance. But I know that the budgets are passed and approved by Parliament, the National Assembly, and I think for now we don't have issues with funding. In fact, we just had our disbursement from Minister of Finance and procured 20 vehicles for operations. So I think for now we don't have much issue of funding.
Okay.
And number two, we have a lot of donor goodwill also. Development partners are also behind our back. They can chip in here and there. I think for now we are doing very fine in terms of availability of funding.
So we understand from him that there's no issue with
funding. No logistical challenge.
But then I would want to know something. We're coming towards the end.
Yeah.
What concerns you most, really, between now and polling day?
Thank you. I think we already mentioned some of those things. Fake news, misinformation, disinformation, hate speech. I think these are some of the things that may pose a serious threat to the process. Of course, we know Gambia is one of the most peaceful countries in the world. But again, the emergence of this phenomena doesn't speak well in terms of our society as Gambians, in terms of the political discourse, in terms of the electoral process. So I think these are these issues of concern that the Commission, I think, is very much concerned with from now to the election.
So what can citizens do really to protect the integrity of this election?
Very important that people, Gambians, they know power belongs to the people. Power belongs to Gambians. Power belongs to the Gambian voters who elect people to represent them in government at all levels, at local level, at the legislative level, and even at the executive level. That Gambians would decide who would represent them in this case. And again, in terms of their choice, they have the free will to choose whoever they want, to lead them in government. And again, in terms of their interaction, I think it's very important that Gambians need to continue to be law-abiding, continue to be tolerant, because politics, I think, is a matter of competition. And again, it's just a matter of who sells his agenda most, that people may vote for the person. So I think people have to understand that, but they have to vote for people who they choose on their own free will, to lead them in the process. And in so doing, let them do it in a very organized fashion, in a very peaceful fashion, and again, in a very transparent and democratic fashion. So I think that's all that we call.
In that situation, Mr. Mboj, I want to ask him, what penalties or sanctions exist for people or individuals or probably political parties who might incite violence during the process?
Yes, I think the issue of violence that may be better placed with the police.
Okay.
Yes,
You will
the
be,
issue of, so
but you are in collaboration.
We collaborate, exactly. Especially in terms of campaign, where the IEC takes full charge. But outside the official campaign, I think the issue of security, the issue of campaign and all that are taken up by the police. So I think we'll continue to collaborate with the police, making sure that the electoral process is as peaceful as possible and continues to be so.
That's it. We will really come to the end. Gentlemen, I was going to ask what will define the credibility of this election, but let's leave that hanging in the air. I'm sure we will at some point come back to it. Thank you very much, really, Mr. Parmakan Khan, the Communications Director at the IEC. And of course, thank you, gentlemen. We are the QTV crew. Today we don't have the lady of the panel, but hopefully we'll get in this room. Well, what did we learn today? That successful elections are not built on election day alone. They are built through months of planning, transparency, public engagement, responsible political behavior, and active citizen participation. The responsibility does not rest with the IEC alone. Political parties, the media, civil society, security institutions, and every eligible voter, we all have a role to play. Ultimately, the credibility of our elections depends not only on the strength of our institutions, but also on the collective commitment of Gambians to protect democracy. Until next time, I'm Mamadou Mbodj. Goodbye.